Hello! Pete's Facts here, and we're back with the Duskmourn commander decks. Let's get in and see what's in here. Okay. So there appear to be 4 for this set. Of course, open at the bottom. Alright. We've got Death Toll, which appears to be green, black. Miracle Worker, which is Esper. Jump Scare, which is Simic. It's a little weird that would be Jump Scare. The last one is Endless Punishment. Alright. Has Valgavoth. We'll start with Endless Punishment, I guess. Apparently there are Archenemy cards with these, so they brought back Archenemy. Alright. Let's get into this. This is Black-Red Endless Punishment. Like they went back to the wide split model of packaging. Okay. So we've got Envelope of Awesomeness. Really has our Archenemy cards. Oop. No Collector's Booster Sample Pack. Huh. We've got our deck and our insert. Got 8 counters. 3 locked room tokens. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we've got our actual Envelope of Awesomeness, which has our deck box, which is once again themed. Nice. Our Collector Booster Sample Pack, which we'll open that in its own video once we have all 16 unboxed. Okay. We have our insert. Covers special rules for Archenemy, commander rules, and then a blurb on Valgavoth, Harrower of Souls. Nice. Wait, does this one have the, No, I guess it doesn't. And some of the old ones, there's an explanation of, or older, not necessarily old, an explanation of why the deck has the color pairings that it does. Alright, so let's move in. Starting off... No, not zoom in. To refocus. There we go. Alright. Let's take a look at our Archenemy cards first. Or Archenemy cards. Yes, either one is technically correct. When will you learn? Scheme. When you set the scheme in motion, each opponent exiles the top card of their library. You may cast any number of spells from among the cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. Alright. My Crushing Masterstroke. When you set the scheme in motion, gain control of all non-land permanents your opponents control until end of turn. Untap those permanents, they gain haste until end of turn. Each of them attacks its owner this turn if able. Ooh, that's gross. Fear my authority. Respect my authority. Ongoing scheme. An ongoing scheme remains face up until it's abandoned. Creatures you control get +2/+2 and have fear. At the beginning of your upkeep, abandon the scheme unless you discard a card or pay 3 life. Fear is they can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or black creatures. Reality is mine to control. Oh, that's where the art card comes from. Cool. Ongoing scheme. Whenever you cast a spell, you may abandon this scheme. If you do, copy that spell and you may choose new targets for the copy. A copy of a permanent spell becomes a token. That's pretty cool. Running is useless. Scheme. When you set this scheme in motion, choose any number of creatures with different mana values, destroy those creatures. You exist only to amuse me. Or only to amuse. Scheme. When you set the scheme in motion, choose one. If you control 6 or more lands, choose both instead. Create 3 1/1 red devil creature tokens with when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. And until your next turn, creatures your opponents control have base power and toughness 1/1 and lose all abilities. Alright, so it's a temporary humility and part of burn down the house. The first mode of it. I call for slaughter. Can't spell slaughter without laughter. Scheme. When you set this scheme in motion, create 3 1/1 red devil creature tokens. With when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. They gain haste until end of turn. If a source you control would deal damage this turn, it deals that much damage +1 instead. Okay. I will savor your agony. Scheme. When you set the scheme in motion, choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Destroy target creature, target player draws a card, target player gains 5 life. Okay. Your nightmares are delicious. Scheme. When you set the scheme in motion, each opponent who has more than 5 cards in hand discards cards equal to the difference. Then if fewer than 3 cards were discarded this way, you draw 3 cards. No secret is hidden from me. Scheme. When you set this scheme in motion, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, then if you control 6 or more lands, repeat this process once. Very cool. Alright. Now for the star of the show, the main deck. Well, I will say the Archenemy cards were pretty cool. Archenemy. Archenemy. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick one. Alright, the pool tab isn't working today. We have to cut the plastic. Last few things I've opened that were supposed to have pull tabs did not have functioning pull tabs, which is a little annoying. Alright, let's get started. Valgavoth, Erwer of Souls. 2 black-red for 4/4 Elder Demon, or Legendary Elder Demon, with flying, ward, pay 2 life. Whenever an opponent loses life for the first time during each of their turns, put a +1/+1 counter on Valgavoth, Herald of Souls, and draw a card. Nice. The Lord of Pain. That kind of looks like something that should be out of the Doctor Who set. 3 black-red for a 5/5 legendary creature human assassin. With Menace, your opponents can't gain life. Whenever a player casts their first spell each turn, choose another target player. The Lord of Pain deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to the chosen player. Ooh. That's nasty. Alright, we have Fear of Burning Alive. 4 red for 4/4 enchantment creature Nightmare. This is from the main set. When Fear of Burning Alive enters, it deals 4 damage to each opponent. Delirium, whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, this deals that amount of damage to target creature that players control. Or, wait, what? Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. Fear of Burning Alive deals that much damage to target creature that player controls. Okay. That makes more sense. Grab the Prize. 1 in a red sorcery. As an additional cost, discard a card. Draw 2 cards. If the discarded card wasn't a land, Grab the Prize deals 2 damage to each opponent. Also from the main set. Terramorphic Expanse. We all know what this is by now. But tap, sacrifice, search your library for basic, put it into play, tap, then shuffle. Blood Pact. Alright, this is the first commander card other than the 2 face commanders. 2 in a black. Instant. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Bloodseeker. 1 in a black for a 1/1 vampire shaman. Whenever a creature an opponent controls enters, you may have that player lose 1 life. Feed the Swarm. Good reprint. 1 in a black sorcery, destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls. You lose life equal to that permanent's mana value. Arcane Signet. 2 mana artifact, taps your commander's color identity. Lightning Greaves, classic. 2 mana artifact equipment, equip creature as haste and shroud, equip 0. Soul Ring, we all know what it does, but 1 mana artifact that taps for 2. Command Tower. Land that taps for your commander's color identity. Bastion of Remembrance. Oh, this was a fun one. 2 in a black enchantment. When it enters, create a 1/1 human soldier creature token. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Blood Artist. 1 in a black for a 0/1 vampire. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Another great reprint. Vulcanwrath Noble. 3 in a black for a 2/2 vampire noble with flying. Whenever Vulcanwrath Noble or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Gary, Grey Merchant of Asphodel. 3 black for 2/4 zombie. When it enters, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. So each black and the mana costs of permanents you control count towards your devotion to black. Infernal Grasp. This actually just rotated out of standard. 1 in a black instant. Destroy target creature. You lose 2 life. Morbid Opportunist. 2 in a black for a 1/3 human rogue. Whenever 1 or more other creatures die, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Sign in Blood. Black sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Keep in mind that it's target player, not you. So you can use that to damage other players. Sir Conrad the Grim. 3 black for a 5/4 legendary human knight. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. 1 in a black, each player mills a card. A very popular commander. Also just strong card. Light Up the Stage. 2 in a red for a sorcery. Spectacle for a red. You may cast it for its spectacle cost rather than its mana cost if an opponent lost life this turn. Exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards. Carder, Doomscourge. 2 black-red for a 4/3 legendary Demon Berserker. Whenever it enters, until your next turn, creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able and attack a player other than you if able. Whenever an attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Mayhem Devil. Really strong in Pioneer and was very strong in standard while it was around. But 1 black-red for a 3/3 devil. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, Mayhem Devil deals 1 damage to any target. That's any player sacrifices a permanent. So fetches, sack effects, clues, treasures, any of that. Trigger it. Rakdos Charm. Black-red for an instant. Choose 1, exile target player's graveyard, destroy target artifact, or each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. Yeah. Felwar Stone. 2 mana artifact. Taps for 1 mana of any color a land an opponent controls could produce. Mind Stone. Ooh, that's a cool Mind Stone. Although it looks like it belongs on a different plane. 2 mana artifact. Taps for a colorless. 1 tap and sacrifice it. Draw a card. Recto Signet. 2 mana artifact. Filters 1 mana of any kind into black-red. Talisman of Indulgence. 2 mana artifact. Taps for a colorless and then taps for black or red and deals 1 damage to you. Thought Vessel. 2 mana artifact. You have no maximum hand size. Taps for a colorless. Ash Barrens. Taps for a colorless and has basic land cycling for 1. You can pay 1, discard it to search your library for a basic land, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. Persistent Constrictor. 4 and a black for a 5/3 zombie snake. Oh, that's pretty cool. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, they lose 1 life, and you put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature they control. Persist. When this creature dies, if it had no -1/-1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a -1/-1 counter on it. Sadistic Shell Game. 4 and a black, sorcery. Starting with the next opponent in turn order, each player chooses a creature you don't control. Destroy the chosen creatures. That's pretty cool. Suspended Sentence. 3 and a black, instant. Destroy target creature and opponent controls. That player loses 3 life. Exile Suspended Sentence with 3 time counters on it. Suspend 1 and a black. Ooh, that's neat. Rather than cast this card from your hand, you may pay 1 and a black and exile it with 3 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter. When the last is removed, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. That's pretty sweet. Barb Flare Gremlin. 3. That actually plays really well with clock spinning. That's cool. Barb Flare Gremlin. 3 and a red for a 3/2 Gremlin with first strike and haste. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, if Barb Flare Gremlin is tapped, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. Then that land deals 1 damage to that player. So it's like Mana Barbs and Mana Flare together? That's a little weird. Gleeful Arsonist. 2 and a red for a 1/2 human wizard. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, Gleeful Arsonist deals damage equal to its power to that player. Undying. When this creature dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Spiked Corridor Torture Pit. Okay. So Spiked Corridor is 3 and a red for an enchantment room. Whenever you unlock this door, create 3 1/1 red devil creature tokens. When this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. Alright. And Torture Pit. Also an enchantment room. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage +2 instead. That could have just been in the main set. Star Athlete. 1 red for a 3/2 human warrior with menace. Whenever it attacks, choose up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller may sacrifice it. If they don't, Star Athlete deals 5 damage to that player. Blitz. 3 and a red. If you cast a spell for its blitz cost, it gains haste, and when this creature dies, draw a card. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. It really makes me sad when they print cards like this that should have just been in the main set. Seance Board. 2 mana artifact. With Morbid, at the beginning of each end step, if a creature died this turn, put a soul counter on Seance Board. Tap, add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of soul counters on Seance board. Spend this mana only to cast instant, sorcery, demon, and spirit spells. That's actually really neat. Wish it had been in the main set, because that would have been really cool. Bedevil. Black, black, red, instant, destroy target artifact, creature, or planeswalker. Alright. Bogus. God of Slaughter. 2 black, red for 7/5 legendary enchantment creature god. Indestructible, as long as your devotion to black and red is less than 7, Mogus isn't a creature. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, Mogus deals 2 damage to that player unless they sacrifice a creature. That's pretty sweet. Braids, Arisen Nightmare. Currently standard legal, by the way. So, if you need one for standard, there's one in here. 1 black, black for 3/3 legendary creature Nightmare. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life, and you draw a card. So, I mean, I can see how this is cool in Commander, because you could draw up to 3 cards off of this. It's really solid in Standard, too. Decree of Pain. Oh, I wish they had brought this back into Standard. 6 black, black, sorcery. Destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. Draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. Cycling. 3 black, black. When you cycle Decree of Pain, all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Fate Unraveler. 3 and a black for a 3/4 elemental creature Hag. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Fate Unraveler deals 1 damage to that player. Oh, okay, so it's an Underworld Dreams on a creature. That's cool. Cataract Parasite. For just a black, you get a 1/1 horror. Whenever an opponent draws a card, if you control a red permanent, you may have it deal 1 damage to that player. That's pretty crazy, actually. I could see that seeing play in Legacy. Mask of Gristlebrand. 1 black, black for a legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature has flying and lifelink. Whenever a equipped creature dies, you may pay X life, where X is its power. If you do, draw X cards. Equip 3. That could get unruly very quickly. Massacre Girl. Honestly, a little surprised this didn't get reprinted in Murders of Karlov Manor, but, you know, it is what it is. 3 black, black for 4/4 legendary creature, Human Assassin, with Menace. When Massacre Girl enters, each other creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Whenever a creature dies this turn, each creature other than Massacre Girl gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Followed by Massacre Worm. 3 black, black, black for 6/5 Phyrexian Worm. Whenever it enters, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 until end of turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, that player loses 2 life. Again, this could have been printed back into Standard. That would have been really cool. But, you know, apparently we can't have that. Nightshade Harvester. 3 and a black for a 2/2 Elf Shaman. Whenever a land an opponent controls enters, that player loses 1 life. Put a +1/+1 counter on Nightshade Harvester. Okay. Blasphemous Act. 8 and a red for sorcery. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. Blasphemous Act deals 13 damage to each creature. Fun with Stuffy Doll. Just gonna leave it at that. And Brash Taunter, which is apparently also in here. 4 and a red for a 1/1 creature goblin with Indestructible. Whenever it is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. 2 and a red, tap. Brash Taunter fights another target creature. Chaos Warp. 2 and a red, instant. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into their library, then reveals the top card of their library. If it's a permanent card, they put it onto the battlefield. Combustible Gearhulk. This one was so much fun in Kaladesh Standard. 4 red for a 6/6 artifact creature construct with first strike. Whenever it enters, Target opponent may have you draw 3 cards. If that player doesn't, you mill 3 cards, then Combustible Gearhulk deals damage to that player equal to the total mana value of those cards. This was basically a guaranteed draw 3 when it was in Standard, and it can deal absurd amounts of damage. I've actually domed someone for 20 off of a Combustible Gearhulk. It was very funny. Enchanter's Bane. 1 in a red enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, target enchantment deals damage equal to its mana value to its controller, unless that player sacrifices it. There you go. Harsh Mentor. 1 in a red for a 2/2 human cleric. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, Harsh Mentor deals 2 damage to that player. This was absolutely broken when it was in Standard during Amonkhet block. Rampaging Frostodon. I believe this actually had to get banned from Standard when it was in. I'm pretty sure this was actually banned in Standard. 2 in a red for a 3/3 dinosaur with menace. Players can't gain life. Whenever another creature enters, Rampaging Frostodon deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. Yeah, this was banned alongside Ramunap Ruins, if I remember correctly. Tectonic Giant. 2 red for a 3/4 elemental giant. Whenever it attacks or becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, choose 1. Tectonic Giant deals 3 damage to each opponent. Exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. Both modes really strong. Although I suspect better in 60 card formats than 100 card formats. Florian Voldarin Scion. 1 black-red for a 3/3 legendary vampire noble with first strike. At the beginning of your second main phase, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the total amount of life opponents lost this turn. Exile one of those cards and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may play the exiled card this turn. Good way to hit your land drops. Kavarak the Merciless. 5 black-red for a 5/4 legendary human shaman. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, Kavarak deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target. Rakdos, Lord of Riots. Black, red for 6/6 legendary demon. You can't cast a spell unless an opponent lost life this turn. Flying, trample. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each 1 life your opponents have lost this turn. So, funny thing about this is this goes infinite with a number of artifact creatures that return other creatures. Just something to consider. Spiteful Visions. 2 and 2 hybrid black-red. Enchantment. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. Whenever a player draws a card, Spiteful Visions deals 1 damage to that player. Alright. It is Underworld Dreams and Howling Mine stapled together. Stormfist Crusader. Black-red for a 2/2 human knight with menace. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card and loses 1 life. This was a menace when it was in Standard. Theater of Horrors. 1 black-red enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. During your turn, if an opponent lost life this turn, you may play lands and cast spells from among cards exiled with Theater of Horrors. 3 in a red, Theater of Horrors deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. This was also very strong in Standard. Vile Smasher the Fierce. 1 black-red for a 2/3 legendary Goblin Berserker. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, choose an opponent at random. Vile Smasher the Fierce deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to that player or planeswalker that player controls. Partner. You can have 2 commanders if both have partner. So, Vile Smasher the Fierce actually saw play in Legacy. So, something to consider. Basilisk Collar. Oh, it comes with a Basilisk Collar, so you can throw a Urza Saga in here and have a mini tutor package. 1 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature has Death Touch and Lifelink equipped too. Solemn Simulacrum. 4 mana 2/2. Artifact creature Golem. Whenever it enters, you may search your library for a basic land, put it in the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Whenever it dies, you may draw a card. Blackcleave Cliffs. Oh, nice. This is actually in standard right now. So as a land enters tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. Taps for a black or a red. Canyon Slough. It is a swamp mountain that enters tapped and cycles for 2. Dragon Skull Summit. Enters tapped unless you control a swamp or mountain. Taps for black or a red. Exotic Orchard. Taps for mana of the colors your opponent's lands can produce. It's Felwar Stone as a land. Foreboding Ruins. Enters tapped, or when it enters, you may reveal a swamp or mountain from your hand. If you don't, it enters tapped. Taps for a black or a red. Graven Cairns. Oh, or Cairns. Very nice. It's the black-red filter land. Taps for colorless, and then for a black or a red, you can tap it to add black, 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 red, or red, red. Shadowblood Ridge. I'm trying to remember. Filters 1 mana of any color and 2 black, red. Shivan Gorge. Man. This is the worst part of the Urza's Land cycle. This was the worst one. Phyrexian Tower, Gaia's Cradle, Tolarian Academy, and Serra's Sanctum are all in the same cycle as this land. This is by far the worst one. It's the only one that's worth less than $1. Taps for it's a legendary land that taps for a colorless, and then for 2 and a red, tap it, deal 1 damage to each opponent. So good. Smoldering Marsh. It's a swamp mountain that enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. Spinerock Knoll. This is one of the hideaway lands. Hideaway 4. When this land enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. It enters tapped. Taps for a red, and then for a red and tap, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if an opponent was dealt 7 or more damage this turn. It was a fun one when it was in standard. Sulphurous Springs, also legal in standard at the moment. Taps for a colorless, and then taps for a black or a red, and it deals 1 damage to you. One of the pain lands. Temple of Malice. Enters tapped. When it enters, you scry 1, and taps for a black or a red. Witch's Clinic. Oh, that's a cool one. Taps for a colorless, and then 2, tap, target commander gains lifelink until end of turn. Nice. Bloodfell Caves. Enters tapped. When it enters, you gain a life, and then taps for a black or a red. Evolving Wilds. Tap and sacrifice it to search your library for a basic land, put it into the battlefield tap, then shuffle. It's just another Terramorphic Expanse. Geothermal Bog. Also in standard. It is a swamp mountain that enters tapped. Leech-ridden Swamp. It's a land swamp, so you can tutor for it with things that get swamps. Enters tapped. For a black and tap, each opponent loses 1 life. Activate only if you control 2 or more black permanents. So that's a fun one. Tainted Peak. Tap for a colorless, and then taps for a black or a red. Activate only if you control a swamp. Temple of the False Gods. Taps for 2. Activate only if you control 5 or more lands. Then we have some basics. We have Swamp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 swamps with 2 different arts. And then we have mountains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mountains with 2 different arts. We have some tokens. We have a human soldier, 1/1, and a 4/4 vigilant scarecrow. I must have missed that one. What creates that? Then we have devil tokens. Looks like we have 9 devil tokens. Let's see if they're differentiated on the back. Scarecrow. They're all scarecrows. I don't know what makes the scarecrows. I don't remember anything making scarecrows in here, but that's cool. All right. Well, thank you for joining me on this adventure with, what was the name of this one? Endless Punishment. That's funny. As always, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff for the algorithm. It really helps us out, and I really appreciate it. We are pushing to get to 1,000 subscribers, so if you're not subscribed, please consider it. And as always, until next time, stay awesome. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.